Welcome to The Explainer. We like to think we understand the world we live on. We've all seen the maps, we've spun the classroom globes, and we've memorized the capitals. But just below the surface of that everyday textbook knowledge, Earth is hiding some of the most unbelievable, logic-defying, and just downright bizarre geographical phenomena imaginable. Today, we're going to explore some facts that will literally shatter your reality and challenge absolutely everything you thought you knew about our home planet. Now, what if I told you there's a river that could literally cook you alive? It sounds like a total myth, right? Like some ancient legend meant to keep travelers away. But deep within the dense Amazon rainforest of Peru, the Chennai Tempishka does exactly this. It's a river holding a terrifying, blistering secret, and the science behind how it even exists in the first place is absolutely fascinating. Okay, let's dive into this first section, deadly and extreme nature. So back to that boiling river. The Chennai Tempishka reaches water temperatures of up to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. That is incredibly close to the boiling point, and it flows like this for nearly 4 straight miles through the jungle. Any animal unfortunate enough to fall in is instantly cooked alive. Now, normally, you'd expect a thermal river like this to be right next to a superactive volcano. But the true, mind-bending geographical anomaly here is that this boiling river is actually 400 miles away from the nearest volcano. Instead, the whole thing is heated by geothermal springs pushing up from deep, deep underground. Leaving the sweltering jungle behind, we find a completely different kind of extreme, the hypersaline lake. Basically, these are landlocked bodies of water packed with massive concentrations of mineral salts. And the most famous example of this sits at the absolute lowest point on Earth's surface, the Dead Sea. And fun fact, even though it has the word sea right there in the name, it's actually the world's most intense hypersaline lake. What's really interesting about this is just how extreme the environment gets. The water here is nearly 10 times saltier than the ocean. That makes survival for almost all life forms totally impossible. But for us humans, it creates this wildly fun floating phenomenon. The water is so intensely dense that you physically cannot sink. In fact, trying to dive underwater is virtually impossible. The extreme salt also creates these incredibly bizarre jagged salt crystals all along the shoreline. All right, from blistering heat and heavy salt, let's swing to the exact opposite end of the thermometer, minus 60 degrees Celsius. That is a bone-chilling minus 76 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're not talking about a temporary freak winter storm here. This is just regular, everyday winter life in Oymyakon, Russia, nestled way deep in Siberia. It is the coldest, permanently inhabited place on Earth. Survival here requires some really intense adaptation. For instance, cars, their engines are left running constantly, day and night, just to keep them from freezing solid. Even the vodka freezes here. Now that is cold. Let's move on to our next section, Earth's hidden underwater worlds. Remember learning about the 7 continents in school? Well, what if I told you an 8th continent has been hiding in plain sight this whole time? Meet Zealandia. It's this massive landmass, literally twice the size of India, that actually broke off from Australia about 85 million years ago. But here's the kicker. 94% of this enormous continent is completely submerged beneath the Pacific Ocean. The only tiny parts peeking above the waves are New Zealand and New Caledonia. Scientists actually only officially recognized it as a full-fledged continent back in 2017. Now, if an entire underwater continent wasn't enough to blow your mind, how about an actual underwater river? Flowing right beneath the Black Sea is this hidden current made entirely of dense, salty Mediterranean water that flows right underneath the much lighter water of the Black Sea. And it is absolutely massive. To put it into perspective, if you pulled this river up onto dry land, it would instantly be the 6th largest river on Earth by volume. Thanks to advanced sonar, scientists realized this underwater marvel even comes complete with its own underwater waterfalls, rapids, and defined riverbanks. Speaking of underwater waterfalls, the island of Mauritius boasts one of the most stunning sights on the planet, an underwater waterfall clearly visible from the sky. But wait for it. It's actually an epic geographical trick. What's really happening is that ocean currents are pulling heavy deposits of sand and silt down a super steep ocean shelf, dropping them straight into the dark abyss. So when you look at it from above, it looks exactly like a rushing waterfall, plunging off a cliff into the ocean's depths. It completely tricks the human eye. Let's move to our next chapter and see how this builds. Bizarre borders and populations. Okay, stick with me on this one, because we are going to explore a geographical Russian nesting doll located in the Philippines. Ready? Follow me here. First, you start on Luzon Island. Now, on that island, you'll find Taal Lake. Inside Tall Lake is Tall Volcano Island. Inside that island is Crater Lake. And finally, sitting right inside Crater Lake is Vulcan Point. It is literally an island within a lake on an island within a lake on another island. It totally defies logic and is the incredibly beautiful result of thousands of years of volcanic eruption. Now imagine a town where almost literally everyone lives in the exact same building. Welcome to Whittier, Alaska. Because the Alaskan winters are so brutal and freezing, nearly all 200 residents of this town live inside a single 14-story converted World War II military barracks. Inside this one vertical city, they've got a post office, a grocery store, a school, and a medical clinic. Some residents will go for weeks without ever having to step foot outside. It's a truly remarkable testament to human resilience, showing how community can completely rely on one another to survive that kind of extreme isolation. So the crucial point here is looking at Whittier and then comparing it to Monowi, Nebraska. While Whittier condenses an entire town into a single building, Monowi condenses into a single person. Elsie Eiler serves as a literal one-woman government. She is the town's mayor, the town's librarian, and the town's bartender, all at the exact same time. She actually signs her own liquor licenses and holds solo town meetings. It's such a fun, incredible example of how humans adapt to geography in the most extreme and sometimes hilarious ways. All right, let's look at Section 4, Illusions that Defy Gravity. Have you ever seen a car roll backwards uphill? Magnetic Hill in New Brunswick, Canada, creates this mind-bending optical illusion. The layout of the surrounding landscape tricks your brain and your eyes so completely that a natural downhill slope actually appears to be a steep uphill climb. If you put your car in neutral gear at the bottom of the hill, you will appear to just magically roll backward, uphill, completely defying gravity. And you know, it's not just the land that plays tricks on us, the weather totally does too. Along the coastal cliffs of Ireland and the Faroe Islands, severe Atlantic storms regularly produce winds exceeding 100 kilometers per hour. When these hurricane-force winds hit the sheer drop of the cliffs, they literally blast the waterfalls backward. They force thousands of gallons of water back up into the sky, creating these stunning, gravity-defying, upside-down waterfalls that look like a massive wall of rising mist. Then we have the mysterious sailing stones of Death Valley. These rocks, and we are talking about rocks weighing hundreds of pounds here, just glide across the flat desert floor entirely on their own. They leave these perfectly straight, carved trails in the dirt right behind them. For decades, this was a total scientific mystery, but we now know it's actually caused by a highly specific, super rare combination of very thin, melting ice sheets and light desert wind that pushes the heavy stones without a single human or animal ever touching them. Okay. Bringing us to our final section, planetary scale and shifts. When we think about the size of a country, we usually think of borders, right? And when we think of Pluto, we think of an entire massive celestial body. Yet, get this, Russia covers roughly 17 million square kilometers, while Pluto's entire surface area is only about 16.6 million. Imagine literally peeling the surface off Pluto, laying it out flat over Russia, and it still wouldn't cover the entire country. A country that spans a staggering 11 time zones, by the way. And this brilliantly illustrates a huge population density paradox. Look at California, just one single U.S. state. It holds roughly 39 million people. That is almost identically matching the population of the entirety of Canada, which is the second largest country on Earth by land mass, holding around 40 million people. This perfectly highlights just how much of our global population is densely squeezed into very specific habitable zones, which is all largely driven by climate and geography. Speaking of habitability, let's talk about the ultimate geographical trick of naming. Do you know that over 80% of Greenland's surface is covered by a massive, completely inhospitable ice sheet? The name Greenland was actually just a brilliant Viking marketing trick utilized by Eric the Red to attract hopeful settlers to his new discovery. Meanwhile, neighboring Iceland is quite green and lush by comparison. It really is one of history's greatest and honestly most successful branding irony. To wrap things up, we need to remember that our Earth isn't just vast, it's constantly, dynamically changing. Mount Everest, which is already the absolute highest peak on our planet, isn't actually done growing, because the Indian tectonic plate is continuously crashing into and pushing right under the Eurasian plate. Mount Everest is forced upward, growing approximately 4 millimeters taller every single year. This means that every single future generation of climbers will technically be facing a slightly taller mountain than the generation before them. And wow, that brings us to the end of our journey today. From rivers that literally boil to upside-down waterfalls and hidden continents, our Earth is so much more strange, complex, and dynamic than a flat, static map could ever possibly show us. So I want to leave you with this question. Which of these mind-bending geographical realities shattered your worldview the most? Really think about it. Keep exploring and never lose your curiosity about the incredible secrets hiding right beneath our feet. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.